think I know that one. How are you doing? All right. Been a month or so.
I had the surgery last week.
Last week.
Yeah. Okay, I'm up and rolling. Are they rolling? Good. Okay, cool.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. And I want to start off with this, that anytime criminal charges are filed, you of course know that that person has to be, that person has to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Yesterday, late in the afternoon, my office charged Pablo Antonio Serrano-Vitorino with 4 counts of first-degree murder. From here on, I'll probably refer to him as just Pablo Serrano. The 4 counts of first-degree murder arise out of an incident Monday night in our city here, where police responded to a call at about 11 p.m. That call, I believe, was in about the 3000 block of South 36th Street. And when they arrived, first of all, they had a little bit of difficulty finding it. That's kind of somewhat of a rural area right there. They found inside 2 people shot and killed on a couch. The third person that was alive when they first arrived but died shortly after their arrival on a porch. And a 4th individual that was a little further away from the house and also shot, was transported to the hospital and died shortly after arrival at the hospital. The police were able to determine a suspect fairly quickly, and that suspect, of course, being Pablo Serrano. The suspect had fled the scene already. The police took the necessary actions in order to try to locate him, and part of that, as you know, the result now is that the vehicle was initially located in the state of Missouri along I-70 at highway marker 171. That's in Montgomery County in Missouri, and more information was gathered there in the state of Missouri, and as a result of that, he was arrested early this morning, I believe it was after midnight, in Montgomery County still. He's presently in Montgomery County, and I've learned, I don't know this as a fact yet, but that Montgomery County has filed a criminal charge against him. I don't know exactly what the criminal charge is, but they filed criminal charges, and he may have had a first appearance this afternoon. There is no agreement yet as to who will handle this matter first. I've had a brief conversation with the Montgomery County Attorney, Nathan Karros, and I think that's still to be determined. Wyandotte County is prepared to take custody of the person of Pablo Serrano. We're prepared to proceed with our criminal charges against him. I guess that's all my prepared remarks. If you have any questions as a result of that.
Can you offer any indication? There are various accounts as to what may have happened or what set this off, what the motive in this might have been, based on what you know at this point?
I can, but I won't. It's getting into the facts, and at this point, we're going to wait and let that play out in the courts before we start discussing motives and specific facts.
Can you tell us if you're going to seek the death penalty if you get a conviction in this case?
This office is very experienced in handling death penalty cases. We will wait until we have all of the facts in from the police department. Once they give us the entire investigation, we'll examine what information there is from the state of Missouri, and then we'll make a proper determination then.
Do you want him here first?
I would love to have him here first. He's killed 4 persons in my community, for which I'm responsible for the safety of those individuals, and we will accept him first if we're given the opportunity and prosecute him to the fullest.
Is there the possibility, because this was an interstate, 2 crimes by this one person, Is it possible the feds could come in and take this case from the local level?
I've had no indication from the feds that they're willing to do this. I've had no communications with them. So I don't know that I can give you any better answer than that.
Can you explain the process? Does Montgomery County have to waive it since they have it? Is it their call, or can you say that we've got 4 counts over here, we'd like them, and we need an extradition here?
I can certainly say that until they either resolve their case or they willingly turn him over to us. There's not much we can do in getting his person.
Did you get an indication from the prosecutor there that they'd like to hang on to him?
No, when I spoke to him, it was very early in the morning. He didn't even have all the facts in front of him yet from his county and wasn't able to offer that kind of an opinion.
I know you don't want to talk about the motive, but just the sheer numbers here. Any indication this was random or that he knew the people that he's now charged with killing?
Well, what we do know is that they lived next door to each other. So that would give us some indication right there that they had some knowledge of each other. You know, how close they were or how frequently they may have had contact. Not prepared to talk about, but it's obvious that they had some knowledge and familiarity with each other.
Have the Missouri folks given you any indication that the feds are placing any kind of court order hold on him at this point? Because we have been told he is an illegal alien in Mexico.
You have to be more specific in your question when you say the feds.
ICE.
I have no knowledge as to whether ICE has placed a hold on this case.
You mentioned that these are 4 members of your community. Last night, ICE said that it made an error in this immigration hold with the wrong agency and that he should have been deported for a second time. Any frustration from you that this error occurred and he was back in your community?
I can't speak to what error, what might have happened. As I understand it, Overland Park requested such a check. ICE responded to it but sent it to the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. That's certainly unfortunate that we now have 4 people dead as a result of that. I don't know what led to that mistake. I hate to criticize someone when I don't know all the facts. But it certainly is unfortunate. We now have 4 members of our community dead because everything didn't happen the way it was supposed to.
How upsetting is it that he's not only here in the country illegally and there was an error with deporting him, but also that he had this weapon, he had an AK-47 in his possession, and now 4 people are dead. How upsetting is that as a prosecutor to see something like that?
Well, we have laws in place that are supposed to prevent that. I suppose until I know more of how he obtained the weapon, who he was able to obtain it through, how long he's had it, I don't know that I'll have a good comment for you. I need to know more about that before I want to speak too much on it.
Now, besides the Overland Park incident where the deportation order, or the detainer was all messed up, in 2015 here in Wyandotte County, apparently he was arrested for domestic violence. He was on a 6-hour hold. Within that 6-hour hold, the Sheriff's Department notified ICE and sent in an immigration alien query, which they have 4 hours to respond to. If they don't respond, then they assume everything's okay and they release this person, which happened. So there's been 2 incidents where ICE has been contacted about this person who was an illegal alien who had already been deported, and now we have 5 dead people, 4 in your community. I mean, that's gotta get you.
Obviously, we wish it hadn't happened. We would love to discuss with ICE why it's happened, and I wish I had a say in making sure that it doesn't happen again.
Now, my understanding is, even if they had responded and issued a detainer under Kansas law, unless they got a court order, you would have had to release him anyway. And the same would have been true in Overland Park. Unless the judge says you got to hold on to this person, you could not have held him any longer than the 6 hours you held him. Is that correct?
That's correct, but I wouldn't anticipate that would have been a problem if we get a response back from ICE, and ICE says, hey, he's an illegal alien, he's already entered the country once illegally. I can't imagine a judge in Wyandotte County, I don't know the judges all in Johnson County, can't imagine they would have any problems either with getting such a court order.
Does the system with ICE need improving from where you stand?
Well, it can't go on the way it's happened in this case on the 2 instances. We can't afford to have anybody else killed or anybody else suffer any kind of severe injury as a result of that.
How frequently is law enforcement dealing with illegal aliens in this community?
You know, I'm going to defer, I have some law enforcement officers, Chief Ziegler and Major Nicholson, I'm going to defer to them to, I think, answer that.
Did we ask one more question while you're still up at the podium? Does this kind of magnify, I mean, right now in politics, there is a huge debate about what to do with the illegal aliens in our country. Does this just magnify the need to do something? You know, we hear about building a wall, we hear about all this different stuff from these people who are running for president anyway. I mean, and this is a case that, you know, we have 5 dead Americans now.
I'm going to let the politicians decide how it needs to happen. I'm not a politician, I'm a law enforcement officer. You're right, though, we can't go on this way, and something needs to be corrected so that the system works properly. We've seen now twice, and I can't imagine that if it's been twice, there's not more times than that the system did not work properly.
Is it your view if he gets pulled over for a parking ticket, or whether it's domestic violence or anything else, if somebody's in the country illegally, I should be notified and deportation hearing should begin against these people regardless of what it is?
Again, I think maybe that one of the law enforcement officers can better speak to you as to what triggers that check, okay? You know, obviously we can't check every person that law enforcement comes in contact with or pulls over.
My understanding is he told your folks he was born in Mexico, and that's why they sent the check to ICE.
You mean
For
the sheriff's department?
The sheriff's department. The June arrest, he told them he was born in Mexico, so they sent the IAQ.
Yeah, I don't know what triggered theirs, but all of them have different triggers.
And, you know, Pablo Serrano-Vitorino, in your opinion, is the one who has the blood on his hands for these 5 people. But does ICE also have the blood on their hands?
I'm not going to criticize another agency. I'm going to concentrate on my prosecution against Pablo Serrano.
Concentrating on the prosecution, does the possibility of deportation have any effect on you and your job?
No, deportation would not take place until he completes his sentence here in the state of Kansas, and I assume in the state of Missouri too.
Thank you.
Whatever that sentence may be. Okay, any questions for either Major Nicholson or Chief Ziegler?
They wanted to address the question I asked with regard to, are you seeing a lot of illegal aliens being pulled over for offenses in our community, dealing with a lot of these folks?
You know, the way that the police department handles that issue is that if we have a felony case and the status of an individual becomes questionable, then we contact ICE to find out what is their status in this country. You know, we had contact with Pablo Serrano in April. He was a victim of an auto theft. We took the report. Then in, I think it was June, he was arrested for domestic battery. And during both those contacts with the police department, they were misdemeanor, well, he was a victim of one, but the other was a misdemeanor crime, and we had no reason to run him at that time through ICE. Typically, if it comes up during a felony investigation, then we reach out to ICE to help us. And, you know, I gotta tell you, everybody makes mistakes, and ICE has been very helpful to us when we've called on them for assistance.
Is checking on felony cases only, is that kind of standard procedure across law enforcement?
I couldn't tell you. That's just the way we do it here at the KCK PD.
And I think, you know, should add to what Chief Ziegler said is, in that misdemeanor arrest, he was booked into the county jail for a 6-hour hold, which is mandatory. That is when the sheriff's department did send their request to ICE. So on that occasion, he was checked. On the other occasion, their contact was as a victim, and they wouldn't check as a victim.
Our understanding that's a 20-year possible sentence in federal prison for coming back illegally.
I know that that's a possibility of a federal crime. I don't know what the time is, but he could be charged federally for just re-entry.
He was arrested on that DV, suspicion of DV, but he was never formally charged through your office, right?
It would have been a city court, municipal court charge,
so
not our
municipal
office,
court.
correct.
What was Mr. Serrano's occupation?
I don't have that much information in front of me.
Chief, do you have any information as to whether or not your officers have been called out to these homes in the past for any disputes between these 2 neighbors?
Not that we're aware of.
Are you folks working with ATF on where he got the gun?
We've just begun that part of the investigation. We're just starting to spread out into the different things that need to be done. And that would be one thing we want to find out, is to try to trace that gun.
So
That's
it's
not been
possible-
done yet.
And it's possible that somebody that might have provided him that gun could also be charged if he didn't get it himself somehow.
It's possible. Yes.
Do you know if his family is also undocumented?
If family, you mean?
His wife and children?
Okay, I understood her to be a girlfriend, and one child that he has there, and I've not been provided that information, whether she is or she isn't. I know she's Spanish speaking, that's all I can say.
And she's not in custody?
She's not in custody.
Have you questioned her?
A statement's been taken from her by the police, yes.
So there was one on the porch who was alive when you got there but later passed away, two inside on a couch, and then one a little further away who was the one who was transported to the hospital on the other side.
Correct. I believe it's correct. Maybe that's correct, yeah.
Were any other weapons found in the house, or did this look like an ambush? Was the one that was found far away, does it look like he was trying to get away?
Look, Denise, there's two questions.
I know.
I don't want to comment on whether it looks like an ambush. That might be part of our evidence in the future. I'm not aware of any other weapons found in the house. Certainly, I don't believe there were any other weapons that were involved in the incident.
Just that one.
Just that one
One
weapon.
rifle.
The long rifle, yes, sir.
Is there any indication drugs is a factor in this at all?
None that I'm aware of, no, sir.
Just for clarity, the rifle that you just mentioned, is that the one obviously that he was found with when he was captured this morning?
I believe I've been told that he was found with one. I don't know that there's been a positive identification on that. I have no reason to think that it's a different weapon.
Was his girlfriend and his child in the house before he left to go next door? Were they in his
Yeah,
home?
I believe they were. I believe they were at home. She has two other children from a previous relationship. I believe all three children were home.
Have the Missouri folks given you any indication of what happened there? Apparently somebody else was accused of shooting and killing somebody else there. Do we know how that transpired, why they got in contact, any of that information?
I've spoken with the Missouri authorities, or at least the county attorney in Montgomery County. I don't want to presume to know or speak for his facts, so I'll let you handle that with him. Better done that way.
Did he indicate that there's a murder charge against Mr. Serrano in Missouri?
When I spoke with him this morning, he was going to be meeting yet. I talked with him about 8:30, that he had yet to meet with law enforcement, said that they were on their way there. So I assume that's happened. I've been told that since then there is a charge.
I know you don't want to discuss motive, but given the fact that a lot of scenarios are being kicked around, can you just quash or discuss whether or not drugs were involved in this matter, or, we've even heard references to cartels and stuff like that?
I have no information at this point to believe that drugs are involved. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Watch your step there.